we got a live match to start us off here. Let's see how they're doing. Oh, they've already gone through their draft, so let's get through that quickly. Actually, let me bring up the screen where I show all those things.
Fancy, yeah.
Yep. Oh wait,
Gotta have your fancy screen.
and what is this? This is platinum, isn't it?
This is platinum, yeah.
These are platinum boys.
Noob's
Oh, boy.
gone from copper to platinum in just 3 years.
Yeah, so Pwndnoob, previously the gold champion of his division, getting promoted to platinum the official way. YerAnd winning silver last season, and then getting auto promoted up into plat due to quite a few dropouts in plat and even a diamond dropout as well.
All right, so it looks like Pwndnoob won the coin flip. Probably went with heads, is what I'm guessing. Heads seems
That's
to
not
be
true.
The
Tails
quality
never
analysis.
fails.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I said tails never fails last season, but this season seems to be a head season. But
There you go.
either way, Pwndnoob
This is the weather by Kletos.
opted to spy first, and YerAnd opted to pick map second, which is that's standard. Pwndnoob banned Veranda first. Interesting.
Yeah, no, this actually makes sense. YerAnd plays a ton of Modere and Veranda. We can discuss some of the specific numbers later because they're dramatic, but this is pure noob counterplay.
All right, and the next ban, kind of an unfortunate one. I want to see more of this map, Tien.
That is
That's
really
just,
surprising.
It's not. YerAnd's banned it 3 times this season.
Yeah.
He's just going on a roll here until he feels comfortable with Tien as the new map. He will continue banning it.
What surprises me about it is that he banned Ballroom, and this number is not a mistake. 26 times in seasons 3 and 4 combined. That's Ballroom alone. That's because, and the only reason that's possible is because in season 3 we had 2 bans rather than 1. I had to double check just to be sure. So yeah, what you're saying makes sense about Tien, but wow, opening for Ballroom, which he normally hates.
I'm a big fan of Pwndnoob's first pick here, Gallery. You don't see double Gallery very often.
We've been seeing it a lot in this early season for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's coincidence or not, just the new class of spies like it, or if it's one of those things that nobody liked last year, so now everyone figures there's a competitive advantage if I've been practicing.
I picked it quite a lot last year, but very rarely did I
You like
double.
it, yeah.
I like it, but I didn't double it very often.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you banned that against me, didn't you?
I did, because you like it.
I would have picked it. Yes, you're right. All right. Then the first pick out of YerAnd is Modere.
No surprise there. Like Morning Track already said, this is a map that he's been picking pretty consistently over last season. 57.14% of his picks are Moderne, so that's over half.
All right, the next pick, pretty common pick, Library, the most popular map, at least in season 3 or 4. I don't know.
Library's the kind of map that as a spy you kind of pick because you feel like you can have some agency in the matchup.
Yeah,
you can try and make the moves a spy.
It's all about being
we'll have to
sneaky spy.
Yeah, exactly. It's also a map that YerAnd feels fairly comfortable on.
Yeah.
So this is just going to be kind of the best spy, best sniper on the night.
Yep. Then the final pick from YerAnd will be High Rise.
Yeah, and so this is really interesting because High Rise is a map that Pwndnoob picks quite a lot due to his behavioralistic sniper style and his counterplay spy style. It's a map that kind of allows you to have a lot of agency if you play around those elements as spy and sniper. YerAnd continues to be extremely stubborn and not pick up maps like Pub any 3 or 5 because he finds them boring. But as we'll find out tonight, YerAnd's sniping style allows him to get a lot of free lowlights through pathing related instances, and Pub is a map that he has completely figured out. I've talked to him on a personal level about this. Pub is probably the best map for him as far as a competitive advantage is concerned, and he refuses to pick it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And it's funny, too, when looking at YerAnd's like picks and bans over the last couple of years, it's this weird dichotomy. It's exactly what we're seeing here. He likes big maps that involve 5 missions, and he likes the Softail variants a little bit, too, though. There's a lot of high-rise Modere and high-rise Veranda. You don't see that too often. People tend to favor one or the other. But YerAnd, a very unusual spy sometimes.
Is it interesting that over the last season...
Yep.
We're going in. Over the last season and the little bit of this season, YerAnd has only picked 4 maps total, Warning Track.
Yeah.
That is some stubbornness, I think, in your drafting.
Yeah, well, stubbornness is the one way to put it. Specialization if you're feeling very generous. But as the map pool expands over time and as the competition gets tougher, you're absolutely right to be a little critical. That's not going to fly for much longer. You're going to have to expand your skill set.
Ooh, very nasty entry into the conversation there from Pwndnoob. Playing a bit of small men to kick us off here on Gallery. And like I mentioned earlier in the draft, YerAnd is a sniper that specializes in pathing.
Yeah, and Noob, very aware of those sorts of things. He'll play very reckless. If you watch some of his games, you'll get the impression that he doesn't know a lot about etiquette, pathing, and other minutiae like that. He does. It's just that if he's determined that you don't watch for it, he will be very, very rude about it.
There's the bug attempt. It connects. A hand was spotted on the sniper cam reaching out. Question is, was YerAnd staring at that side of the screen? We haven't had a shot yet, and YerAnd is the kind of sniper who will shoot if confident. However, he will also mission count if he wants to take things a little bit seriously.
Yeah, only if confident. In fact, he shot 1 civilian all of last season and just 3 in his 104 total SCL sniper games, and one of those was on Old Balcony. So he does not miss shot for the most part.
Yeah, not at all. I have stats for his competitive win rates over SCL4, Summer Cup, and SCL5. And I remember in SCL4, he was the sniper with the highest overall win rate, which is absurd. I think it was 85% if you may remember Warning Track, but YerAnd
Yeah.
probably one of the cleanest snipers in the game currently.
Yeah, if you take a minimum of 20 sniper games in Season 4, the highest sniper win rate of anyone in any division.
Insane. Pwndnoob being offered a drink here from Toby is going to reject it, not taking a shot at the guest list here. We've got the bug past YerAnd, potentially. It was possible for him to spot it. Now we're looking to try and finish our flirt off at a nice quick pace of a minute left on the clock, roughly. Then we have to figure out where our last 2 missions come from. Visiting statues this late could be rough. You have to think that contact's going to be involved, though.
Yeah, so with Smallman, because he's so hard to see, it makes sense to do certain missions like Microfilm or Bug, where maybe they have to credit it, but they can't see it. But statues, finishing inspects, that's different because he has to go to them and be super visible. It kind of gives away his advantage in a way.
Really unfortunate. Pwndnoob shaking his camera in anger. Seduction targets really not giving us the chances we want. There's the Purloin coming through. Green test on the reject, and now we're going to have to see how much of a chain comes through. Toby is offering to quite a few people. Offers to the ambassador, offers to Mr. A here as he walks away with the briefcase. And if we can get one more reject, this could be clean.
It could be. He was zooming in just as the reject happened, and it's taken place.
Oh, he was all over this. He knew that a Purloin was potentially on the tables, and now he sees that it 100% has come through. Can he remember who was in the chain? That's the real question. Oh, highlights for Alice. No highlight for Teal, who was the actual guest list taker. Pwndnoob potentially looking to swap as the finish, maybe even going a silent game. We'll have to see.
Yeah, what's really significant about that is he didn't even zoom in on the list. He saw the list from a distance. He was expecting it. He assumed it was green. He was totally on that. He didn't even need to look.
Anyone want some small man cheese? It's going to be a book-to-book transfer here. Pwndnoob takes blue, walks over to green. He's
staring at the
behind everybody. We're staring at the amber, and here's the mission win countdown. Pwndnoob hiding behind the back conversation. 5 seconds left, and the dance is afoot.
Round and round we go.
Tippity-tappity toes, and game 1 goes Pwndnoob.
He was not looking at that at all. He was worried about the ambassador out front for whatever reason. Noob, we saw this before in the Tan tournament, multiple games where players danced when they didn't have to because they weren't actually suspects. That's what happened here. He got away with it clean and decided to do a cheesy little dance in the back. And if anything, that almost gave him away.
Potentially, but it didn't. That is the first spy game going Pwndnoob's way on the pick of Gallery here. We'll have to see how YerAnd is able to adapt to the pacing on Pwndnoob's game. Somewhat improvised, you have to feel, based on the fact that our seduction target wasn't really giving us the openings that we wanted that game.
Yeah, and I like the kind of the moderated cheese there. He didn't completely just take it and bail, and he waited a good second or two, and it turns out that actually made the difference because that extra second or two caused YerAnd to decide to look down at the ambassador, who was out front. That's the one thing the big favor the party did him there at the end was that the ambassador was all the way out front, splitting YerAnd's attention at the worst possible time. And Noob's up 1-0. I said he could be rude, and boy, did you see it there.
Yeah, no, that's just classic small man. If you can get behind that back conversation, get into a position essentially where the sniper can't land a shot on you safely. Even if you do decide that you want to dance and it's fairly unnecessary, it can work out well. YerAnd now heading into the spy game as Red Dress, going to have to try and pull something over Pwndnoob. For those who are unfamiliar with Pwndnoob's sniper style, it's probably the most fluid in the game, at least at this high level of SpyParty. Do not take his lowlights and highlights to mean anything but essentially the inner workings of a madman's brain.
Yes, that's probably the nicest way to put it, actually. And he plays a very spy-focused game in general, too. In 3 seasons, he's never lost more than half his spy games, but he's also never topped 70% in his sniper games, though he came closest last year. So, as you say, very fluid, very cheeky, will take a lot of cheap lowlights based on inactivity or tendencies, but for him, it's all about getting those spy wins and just doing a solid job as sniper.
Yeah, for example, YerAnd taking a drink and then leaving the conversation with the drink is the kind of thing that Pwndnoob would say was spy-like. Then the little pathing rebounds because he had a drink, and you're not meant to take a drink outside on gallery. That's the kind of thing that Pwndnoob might go, hey, that's pretty AI-like. But if there's one person who's a bigger nerd when it comes to pathing etiquette and just etiquette in general than I am, it's YerAnd. And he strives to play the perfect pathing game when he plays spy. And so you cannot take those little rebounces as anything because YerAnd goes out of his way to do so.
Yeah, if YerAnd looks like he's wasting time or doing anything strange or risky, you're going to know why. It's because he's actually, as you say, he's up on this, and he's playing a sniper who has a tendency to reward that sort of thing. The question is, will Noob counter the counterplay, know that about YerAnd, and not take as many of those soft lowlights as he normally would?
I was about to say we haven't had any soft lowlights, but here they come. Just
There's
a
a couple.
coming out based on activity in the first minute and a bit. Contact comes out for YerAnd getting his first mission complete, and now we're going to split over towards the green bookshelf. A little bit late, you would think, to be considered a low light here. In fact, it might even be considered a highlight depending on what you feel. Going to pick up the briefcase here, fingerprint on it. No highlight though just yet.
I counted maybe 6 lowlights on screen when that happened. I think Noob got 5 of them, pretty good all in all, and the party is pretty well whittled down given YerAnd's level of mission progress.
This is something that is pretty common on gallery. It's very difficult to make a contact be the kind of thing that is sacrificeless. Very difficult. That was an attempt at a bug. If you're watching it through the sniper cam, practically invisible, but suspicious due to its nature, knowing that that path is very hard to see. That was a flirt and then a straight up leave. YerAnd's being very risky here with his etiquette.
Yeah, and that bug was not visible, at least to me, and there's a reason for that. It didn't take.
That's a swap. That's a fingerprint. And we've got General the Amber blocking us. Doesn't matter. Pwndnoob's timing is correct, but unfortunately onto an AI. Ties the series up 1-1 with the miss shot.
Wow, and he was staring at that twin after the banana bread went off, I think it was, because he was bouncing around with the ambassador out front. He seemed very preoccupied with the twin. I think he was suspicious of the twin for early actions and just never quite stopped tunneling on him, which is why there was a swap on screen, zoomed in front of his face, and he was busy looking at something else.
Both these snipers, YerAnd and Pwndnoob, are the kind of players that I feel like a front-facing swap will go unnoticed due to the almost their reluctancy to camp mission sites quite in the same way that Crazy Kaylee would. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of that happens this series. And yeah, I think I remember there was a couple of bounces as well from the twin where people took his spot at bookshelf and he was forced to repath. The kind of low light that YerAnd would be pretty confident on taking, but Pwndnoob potentially putting a little bit more suspicion on it.
Speaking of a little bit more suspicion, he's Smallman again.
Update that counter, Kletos.
Already on it.
How high does that go?
As high as we need.
As high as we need.
So, starting things off, Pwndnoob going to be looking, seems, for a fingerprint from the ambassador. However, ambassador doesn't take a drink and he hasn't left his spot here in the conversation. There's the highlight for just being small man. One of those highlights that I feel like can be valuable if you really do have a almost superstitious sense for this character is more suspicious than others. Then you can highlight them, watch their progress throughout a game, and then throw a low light if they don't do anything.
Yeah, you say, this, buddy, this is just for being you.
Get our first flirt. Cute little 51%. Add to the painting here. Pwndnoob's watching Queen just a little bit. He wants to see where she goes next. He wants to decide what mission he goes for next. He sees that the ambassador is tightly packed in the front conversation, so he feels like this could be a time where you attempt some cheese. Ambassador will get pushed out, though. Pwndnoob just waiting for the next mission, and it is going to be a flirt.
If he saw that replay and studied it quickly enough, he will notice exactly what you just referenced and what I mentioned before, which is that the attention was split. When the ambassador and the list are in different places, when the ambassador's out front, it creates a lot of opportunities.
Definitely something you have to look for. Standing next to the ambassador here, very buggable position. However, it is directly in the face of the sniper, and I doubt Pwndnoob would be as reckless to go for it. However, now we have the opportunity to fingerprint with the briefcase underneath us, and indeed Pwndnoob will attempt the fingerprint.
And that was the real plan here all along, I think, yeah.
Not entirely sure if that step out was 100%. I feel like if YerAnd was feeling confident, that kind of path there is the kind of thing that either makes or breaks you as a spy. We'll have to see how this does play out as the rest of the game goes on. We've got our seduce done. We're looking for a double agent contact here. Conversation became a little bit full, so Pwndnoob stops outside of it and then repaths, something an AI would do. But here comes Buns. She ruins everything by stepping into the conversation, and YerAnd has actually low-lit her. And so if YerAnd wasn't just zoomed in on both the guest list and the ambassador, that's the kind of thing that could hard confirm Pwndnoob as a spy.
And there's a white time ad there, and I saw a couple lowlights come off. He was zoomed in when it happened, but when he zoomed back out, Smallman was the only one still at Windows. I think there's a pretty good chance he's onto this.
Yeah, zooms out looking for the bug, watching to see what the Smallman does. We're in a conversation with an SDA here. Not many other people, fairly hidden, but we don't have the mission progress just yet to be making any reckless plays and just hard finish in a second. Pwndnoob, however, is the kind of spy that will happily time out in his spy games. So we'll have to see if Pwndnoob feels the heat and goes for the timeout.
As we mentioned earlier, YerAnd not one to shoot civilians, values civilian life more than maybe most of us snipers do. We probably should value it a little bit more. But that means a timeout is not necessarily as likely to work here if you're really going to commit to it.
Pwndnoob stepping to green bookshelf. He wants the fingerprint. He's waiting for the fingerprint. He is going to get the book with the fingerprint on it, but how long did he have to wait? And was it something that YerAnd would find suspicious? Green book in hand. Potentially Pwndnoob is the kind of player who would hold on to it and look to try and take it to blue bookshelf at a later date, but no, puts it back in. Really trying to reduce any possible suspicion on himself. He sees that Rocker, the double agent here, is close to the conversation. What Pwndnoob doesn't know is that Salmon has been sitting in here forever, so there's no chance that Rocker will be able to step into this conversation. What Pwndnoob wants more in the world is a contact and a purloin to finish, it seems.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it doesn't look like it's going to work. Salmon finally leaves. When Rocker leaves the shelf, you might get an opportunity. He's going to bank the whole game on it, it looks like.
24 seconds on the clock, ticking down. Here comes Toby, the waiter, to offer the drink. Pwndnoob going to be looking for a green test on the purloin, and he is going to hit a white, so we'll have to see if this gets shot immediately. Looking for the guest list as we come up. YerAnd has seen it, and now he's looking for Smallman to find the shot. Here it comes. We're waiting. We're actually waiting for a contact as well. As soon as this contact comes out, he's going to have to take the shot. Can he get away from the shot is the question. No, he cannot. The contact causes coughs, and to the death is Smallman.
Now, it's funny, for a while there, I worried he wasn't actually going to be able to line up a shot, but there was a nice little gap in the conversation out front just when he needed it, and he was ready for it. Tremendous patience by YerAnd there.
Very confident sniper, able to mission count, and won't shoot unless it's forced upon him.
Yeah, and that is a difficult skill. When you see that purloin on gallery, you know you could miss a bug. It would be so easy to miss a bug. And you've already seen swaps go off, obviously in your game rather than his. That's the kind of match you're in, though. Like you say, just good mission counting, confidence. To have that kind of confidence, very impressive.
Very. And when you look at the amount of lowlights that YerAnd was able to get from that game, it's the kind of thing that you can feel confident that if you're that aware of the party, that you have all these people in your mind as completely not the spy, shouldn't be the spy at least, then you kind of get to a position where, you can watch the highlights with even more ferocity. Here we see YerAnd sneaking that. Oh, he doesn't actually take the book. That's a very strange play.
I think he misclicked. He was going to pick up the briefcase by mistake,
Oh.
so he just bailed.
I've been in this position. It's the worst feeling.
Green purloin, by the way. Pwndnoob is getting lowlights out front. He did not see that reject.
He did see the path away from green bookshelf, so You have to wonder if this highlight just coming out now is a very strong highlight for Pwndnoob. There it is, guest list fades on screen and highlights coming out for it as well. YerAnd out front with the briefcase put down due to the fact that the ambassador has left our conversation.
The timing of that fade made it look very difficult to distinguish between green and white, so I don't think he's at all confident that that was a green, and I don't think he's ruled Rocker out at all, certainly based on that highlight.
I mean, he's
think,
staring down the bug at the moment, so, and you're completely right. For those unaware, when you green Purloin the guest list, then the next AI to take a drink from Toby will indeed take the guest list, but there is a randomizer involved with that. Oh, he's safety off, he knows for sure. That's pretty telling that YerAnd is top suspect right now. But to go back to the original point, the guest list fade can happen anywhere between 1 and 4 seconds, it feels, warning track. And if it does happen towards that end 4 seconds, then sometimes it looks like a white.
Exactly like a green swap. It can happen at any point in the first inspect animation. And if it happens at the very last frame, sometimes the sniper, they notice just a little too late. They discount it before it's happened. I'm really surprised. I almost wonder if those highlights were just to be safe. Because it really didn't seem like he was able to get a good look at the green and the white. But that highlight that he gave to YerAnd as he was walking away is really significant. Noob is very good at that sort of thing, at failing gracefully when he misses things. Basically, I didn't see where that book came from, therefore I'm going to assume you are microfilming with it, right? That kind of thing. So I didn't see the Purloin reject, but anyone who's making a beeline for the outside as if I could not have Purloined, please lowlight me, inherently suspicious, especially when they're carrying a briefcase.
And Pwndnoob does lean into the etiquette sniping playstyle just a little bit more than others. And there were two things that were really hard etiquette breaks. The original leave at green bookshelf because we accidentally attempt to pick up the briefcase. And then when he puts the book back, puts it back halfway through an animation. It looks fairly clean to most people, but when you're renowned for kind of catching these small little etiquette details, then it's not the player you want to be doing them against.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where you can think you've gotten away with it because you've gotten through the hardtail, which for many players is the game. But it's not. There are so many ways to account for missing that when you can catch someone on something small.
So, leaving a gallery, we start the series off 2 apiece. Now to Modere, YerAnd's map pick of choice. 2 more games to be played here. Pwndnoob starting things off with a bit of an AI control. Now, this is really interesting because we talked about YerAnd's innate ability to take free lowlights for very AI-like pathing. Pwndnoob, it seems, is betting that he will be able to get a lowlight from YerAnd maybe in the first half of this game. Maybe we AI control for the first 2.5 minutes, and then we rush towards the end once that lowlight is given to us.
Well, this isn't what you want the AI to do if you're fishing for that. You want them to move around more. If they're just sitting in conversation, you can do that just as well as an AI usually.
Exactly, and Pwndnoob is going to take control from the AI. This is something that I believe Scallions did to YerAnd earlier on in the season on a library game, AI controlled on I believe it was even the slowest character in the game, Orange Dress Sari. And AI controlled for a good portion of the game, then took control and attempted a rush. And YerAnd dropped the low light onto Scallions and then brought them back up to a highlight later on in the game to find the mission, the shot. So it's a bold play. It's one that has been attempted once from what I can see, and it hasn't worked yet.
Yeah, idling as Sari on a large venue, that is really selling it for sure. You almost want to give them a low light just because they've earned it. But in this case, it's a much faster character at least, so there's a little bit of a chance to rush late if it works, but so far it absolutely hasn't.
YerAnd going to be taking some lowlights for very AI-like movement. It's kind of a mix between etiquette pathing and behavioralism for YerAnd. And it's one of the things, at least from my personal games with him, that he feels very confident in his lowlights. If he sees them, he kind of just holds on to them. Unfortunately for Pwndnoob, gets stuck on the edge of the conversation and does a little bit of a 360. Hasn't been spotted, at least not credited with a highlight, but maybe YerAnd is on it.
A lot of cover from that conversation. I think a microfilm would be close to free now, unless he swings around just as it happens.
We got ourselves a fingerprint from that book, but we are going to put it back in the shelf innocently, not attempting a microfilm here. Pwndnoob enters conversation in range for a standing bug. Will he attempt it before the ambassador gets pushed out is the question. Waiting potentially for some camera movement from YerAnd, and there it is. The bug attempt, it connects. I think it was free.
You could definitely see it, but YerAnd's eyes would have to be right there. And they, in general, their camera positioning suggested they really weren't looking at that side of the venue too much. So I think he might have gotten away with it. But that in-conversation bug is as bad sometimes as Kane's outside of conversation bug is good.
Banana bread.
It's a big lean.
Contact comes through. One low light taken. There's at least 3 more to be taken, I believe. Maybe 4 even. And yet, YerAnd does pick them up. He was watching, I guess, very closely for the potential bug attempt that Kane could put out there, which says to me that he hasn't credited a bug at all for Pwndnoob yet.
Yep.
Highlight will come through for this fingerprintable statue. We've got 4 missions, and we're just going to go for the swap here.
Wow. And we're going to see if he's on this or not. He's only got a few suspects. The thing about that banana bread, you mentioned not too many hard low lights. The problem is there are a lot of soft ones. That big full conversation out front, 7 people, had no SDA in it.
This is the worst case possibility. A low light has picked up the statue, and YerAnd will potentially see the swap come through.
Seek's head is blocking it.
10 seconds. He's not looking for the swap whatsoever. He's looking for a purloin attempt. Sees the head now, but I don't think he's looking at it. 2 seconds left on the mission win countdown, and Pwndnoob going to find another spy win.
Wow, huge. So his plan, by any account really, does not work there. The AI does not do a lot of AI things. They kind of hang out for a while, and he blows a minute before finally taking control. But he waits and waits and waits on that bug until YerAnd lets their guard down. And then there's the cheeky swap at the end. It's very significant. Noob loves bug, but he fades swap for the most part, like most good spies, frankly. But that's a swap right there at the end. And as you mentioned, on YerAnd's screen at the very end. Before that, Seek's head was blocking it. A little bit of an assist from the turban.
I mean, but all it takes is a slight rotation of the sniper cam to really watch for that statue, and then you see the swap, and then that's a dead Pwndnoob. So clearly, YerAnd not anticipating the swap there, and the threat of the potential of an immediate purloin more so on YerAnd's mind.
That's a great point. The thing is, if he's already a suspect, you're watching for it, you catch it. If he's not, you're not, and the game is over just like that.
So, going up 3-2 here. YerAnd now answering back with a spy game. Going to be playing one of the twins here. And of course, it is Blink Twin. With the other twin being the selected double agent. So YerAnd, not entirely sure how much weight he puts into selecting his cast, but that's an interesting one, because I do feel like there's an argument to be made that you shouldn't play one of the twins and then select the other twin to be a cast member.
Yeah. Certainly an argument to be made, by the way, that you should go to bars this busy, whether you were planning to or not. Look at all that action.
YerAnd's going to pick up the flirt. A bit of a long-range one here onto Seek, but it's pretty far away. And we're actually going to demand a drink, I believe, and then we're going to delegate the pearl list and walk away. So a bit of cheese there, and also an etiquette hardtail based on the way that YerAnd did it. We'll have to see if Pwndnoob was watching for it.
And we'll also have to see if Pwndnoob is watching for microfilm. YerAnd loves that. He plays a very atypical spy. He's microfilmed in Season 4 60% of the time when it was available, and almost never bugged comparatively, even though bug is usually the most popular hardtail. Now, granted, that's down to his venue setup. We mentioned Veranda and Modere, obviously much friendlier to microfilm than most others, but still crazy high microfilm rate.
Really interesting position and conversation here. Not really close to anyone. We're going to start a contact, and then we're going to delegate, I believe, to Cowboy here. To our left, I would assume, based on the range. He actually leaves, so now the contact would go, the purloin would go to the double agent of all people, and there it is, sends him off. Leaves during a sip, though. I don't know if...
Noob's staring at it. Noob's ready.
That's not, like, normally that's a good move. Maybe forcing an etiquette break from an AI, great idea, but when they've got a big yellow triangle, they can't be the spy. Yep. That is a guaranteed low light, and yeah, let's see what happens here. Too late.
It expired. Yeah, about 5 or 6 seconds too slow. It felt like he was going to be cutting it pretty close. Sometimes delegating to a cast can be good, though, because nobody looks for it, but it works better as a late or even last mission then, when they only need to not look for 10 seconds.
So, with that unfortunate circumstance of the purloin not playing out, that's a whole minute theoretically wasted for YerAnd. We're going to inspect, and we're going to swap on the spot here. That was not a mistake. Definitely did that on purpose, with it being the last action that he could have taken at that statue. Heading into conversation now with our seduction target, a very long-range flirt, and also a contact, potentially a mistake. We'll have to see.
He's in with an SDA too, so it's not even going to have the noted effect. And the swap, definitely not a mistake. I mentioned earlier that he plays an atypical spine, doesn't bug much. He swaps more than he bugs, which is rather
Ooh.
remarkable because he plays on venues like this. In fact, 40% of his spy games last year were either on Veranda or Moderne. So he's very aggressive on it, very comfortable on it.
Highlight the double talk, I believe, and the leave of the conversation. We're going to pick up our final inspect, putting us on 4 missions. There's the swap noticed by Pwndnoob, and now he has a big task ahead of him. Can he whittle down the party and find the right shot? Well, the sniper says that he knows it's YerAnd. YerAnd wants one more fingerprint to mission complete here. Pwndnoob may just watch him down and wait to find that mission complete as well.
So here's the problem, though. If he doesn't realize he has this much mission progress already, will he be able to shoot for one more thing, one fingerprint? I think so, but that's a big test. You have to think, wow, he's really on the precipice of getting to the countdown.
It's 4 soft tails and a hard tail. We know the swap has come through, so you at least know there's a swap. You know there's a contact. You have to assume Seduce is completed. Here's the fingerprint for the mission win, and we're staring down the guest list, which means that Pwndnoob is confirming that the other AI is not the spy, takes the shot, and takes the lead.
I really like that he looked there. He figures, I've got 10 seconds even if this is him. I think it's him, but why not look one more time just to see if the guest list has gone off? Because if it has, I will have eliminated my top suspect, and that is incredibly valuable if you're wrong. So just really nice and calm, really good from Noob there. 4-2.
4-2 on Moderne, which is YerAnd's map pick of choice as well. We'll have to see how YerAnd brings this one back. YerAnd only has lost, I think, 1 sniper game on Moderne so far. Potentially it's 2. It's a pretty high success rate as sniper. Pwndnoob will be happy that he's one of them.
What I really might want to see here, even though I mentioned YerAnd doesn't like to shoot civilians, Noob has shown so much mission progress in these games, and he just had a mission win on Moderne. If ever you were going to slow play and try to frame someone, this might be the time to do it now that you've established that much activity.
Starting a conversation that didn't have as much value for us. Pwndnoob's looking around the party, wanting to try and find some information. Long-range flirt, it's a green test for 25%, which puts us in a awkward position, I suppose. If you're trying to 3 flirt, it requires another green test at close range. But I don't think Pwndnoob is really worrying too much about that right now. He's the kind of player that's happy to play a little bit more recklessly around his flirting.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we've seen, he can take games where it looks like he's committed to a timeout and find a way to get 2 or 3 missions at the end. Maybe a little harder on Moderne than Gallery sometimes, but he's capable of it.
Here's our second flirt, putting us up to 55% here on the white test. Now just a green test at close range would complete the 3 flirt for us, and it wouldn't really look all that suspicious that we were ever flirting with Pearl either. We're standing on the briefcase as well, and we're going to pick that up. Pwndnoob going to now return it to the ambassador and get a fingerprint as well.
And he's done both of these things in previous games. In the last Moderne game as Kane, he got the flirt done pretty early before anything else really, completely, and then focused on everything else. He also did the little, I'm going to stand next to the Amba, and then I have a reason to pick up the briefcase when they're done. He did that as Smallman on Gallery. Noob just giving himself options.
And look at this, a conversation with so much value. Oh no, ST says otherwise. We do have the double agent here. We want to go for it. Pwndnoob surveying the party, deciding whether or not it's valuable. We've got 2 people at statues, and so I suspect that Pwndnoob would wait for Teal and Irish to find themselves in a conversation.
And that's going to help him, even though a lot of people were spread out there. We know the one of the SDAs, rather, is at red bookshelves, so that would have made the number of people who could have done a real banana bread relatively modest.
Banana bread.
And here it is. Contact does come through. And Teal is in a conversation with a double agent, and so potentially more suspicion going the way of Teal here. And Pwndnoob will play around this now that he's noticed that Teal has been to statues, that she walked into the conversation with the double agent, and the contact came out at a relatively suspicious time for that. I wouldn't be surprised if Pwndnoob then goes and grabs the guest list and delegates purposely to Teal here.
Yeah, absolutely. But you see, still giving himself options if it doesn't work. Obviously really wanted that flirt there. That would have really opened things up for him. Now, maybe that frame becomes more likely.
Second contact comes through here. Who are we framing? What is this about? There was no reason for a right click of any sorts. We already had our flirt completed. Makes me think that Pwndnoob is really actively trying to frame someone here.
Is he going to take this? Okay. Yeah, I was
Oh,
going
we
to
actually
say.
just straight up reject.
Huh.
Yeah, very strange. Oh, okay, we've missed the pad. Pwndnoob's just going to play it cool, pick up the briefcase. This briefcase return is 100% illegal, and
Yep.
Pwndnoob has been burnt for it. Here
Yep.
comes the shot from YerAnd. Very unfortunate, because that game was going so smoothly.
It really was, and he had someone he could frame. He had decent progress if he wanted to finish instead. But you're right. They clearly decided to pick up that briefcase long before the ambassador moved. Now, sometimes I know you're not supposed to pick up the briefcase if the ambassador's nearby. There are exceptions. If the character decides to pick it up, that's when they look for the proximity. When they make the choice, the ambassador can keep moving, therefore, and be very nearby when the actual pickup happens. But that's not what happened here. He was at bookshelves the entire time, so it's an illegal briefcase, and YerAnd knows that.
And so, for those wondering what Pwndnoob's intentions there were, to me, it seemed that he was attempting to walk towards the red bookshelf, land on the bookshelf pad, and then take the fingerprintable book as the ambassador
Yes.
put it back. And so, it was never about the briefcase, but Pwndnoob makes the mistake and then goes, well, how do I rectify this? How do I come out of this seeming less suspicious than I currently am? And the only way to do that is the briefcase play. However, it's a very small percentage play after the mistake was already made.
Yeah, I think it is the best way to salvage that missed pad. You're right. But obviously, the best thing to do is just not miss pad in the first place. We saw an issue with that on Gallery as Smallman, too, although pad issues out front in Gallery a lot more common than the book pads on Modere, to say the least.
That's that. YerAnd has the opportunity to tie things back up here on Moderne, bring us to a tie at 4 apiece. Playing Pearls equally as slow as Orange Dress here, moving out to the side of the map for an innocent watch check. And this could be a bit of counterplay from YerAnd. I remember a
Yes.
conversation I had with Pwndnoob at a table in Barcelona. We met up in last summer, and he said this is the kind of thing that I love to throw lowlights out for: active idling, going out to the right side of Moderne and not time adding, going to a bookshelf and obviously not microfilming. These are the kind of things that, as a behavioral sniper, I would be fairly comfortable throwing lowlights out for.
This is exactly the sort of thing Noob would lowlight for, and YerAnd is absolutely doing it for that reason. I was waiting to see, does he time ad out here, or does he just watch check? If he just watch checks, he's looking for the lowlight. But again, we see Noob being a little cautious with some of these lowlights, and probably it's for the same reason we already talked about. He knows that YerAnd knows that he'll do that.
When you know that they know that you know, who knows anything at that point. YerAnd, though, knowing that Inspects is the play that he wants to make here, and the swap at the end of the cycle, we're trying to frame for a green swap onto Irish here. Unfortunately, I believe Irish was low lit for whatever behavioralist magic Pwndnoob possesses in his head. Is going to get brought back up to a highlight for being the 50-50 in this position, but I have to think that if Pwndnoob has already thrown a low light Irish's way, that this 50-50 rests more so in YerAnd's court.
Absolutely, and obviously the idea is there, I should already have a low light, so this frame is going to work, but he doesn't. Noob has held the low light, and that means he's in a dominating position now.
Irish off towards the bar. Did seem like YerAnd wanted to potentially throw a contact out, maybe even try and frame Irish in that position. But as it turns out, the SDA does move away. We get ourselves our first flirt, but it's a weak one at 23%. Here comes the potential for a contact, though. Irish has moved into a conversation with an SDA, and the double agent has come to us. And so it keeps this 50-50 alive, and the white test contact will come from YerAnd.
And the end of red.
And he is not selling out on pearls. He's watching that ambassador very closely, but I just don't see any indication that he's trigger happy here. He's really going to wait this out and make YerAnd try to finish, or wait for Irish to do some really strange things before shooting her.
YerAnd knows that Irish has a drink in hand, and so he could play a good of a, yep, look at that, going to instantly enter the conversation, then leave it, trying to frame Irish further with a delegate of the guest list, but I just feel like
It's
this
been
kind
too
of
long.
play, it's been too long, but also it's more likely that the spy would put themselves in a frame position than the AI would do so.
Yes.
And so with that being said, Pwndnoob very confident with the shot and will keep his lead.
Yeah, are you really going to credit the person who happened to pick up your green swap with also coming into your conversation late in the game? That'd be perfect. You can't bet on that kind of luck. So in that case, it makes perfect sense to shoot the direct purloiner.
With that, Pwndnoob up 5-3 now, heading on to our second map pick of choice here. And of course, it is going to be Library. Pwndnoob choice of single, and a map that historically YerAnd has been very good on. Really high sniper win rate. However, his spy win rate has been lacking. But when you want to look at historics of win rates, Pwndnoob's sniper win rate not too far away from YerAnd's, but his spy win rate is definitely up there, almost 70% over 2 seasons and a bit of Winter Cup play here. That's a high spy win rate.
And it's over a large sample size too. It's not just seasons, because sometimes people will play, one map a few times in a season. Noob only played Ballroom 4 times all last year, for example. But Library, if he'd played one more Library game in season 4, he would have played it twice as much as any other map. 31
Yeah.
total Library games last season, in addition to the other events you mentioned. So he is well versed in Library, and when someone has played that many games and still has that win rate, you know it's for real.
Yeah, Pwndnoob is one of the library connoisseurs here in the SpyParty competitive league. Not a map that I enjoy playing him on. I'm going to start things off with our seduction target here for a flirt and then leave conversation, both going opposite directions, which will allow us to get that flirtation timer expired as quickly as possible.
Yeah, if a spy is this good at Library, we should probably just say they're well-read. Noob, one of the most well-read spies, certainly. But what's interesting about it is that we mentioned YerAnd loves Modere and Veranda, and as you said, pretty good on Library too, probably for the same reason. They like those sort of big, busy maps where it's easy to either hide in a crowd or because you're off-screen 2/3 of the time. It kind of plays into YerAnd's hands too. I'm going to say net gain for Noob, but normally
100%
yeah,
big net gain.
it is, but I think this is something. YerAnd could surprise on this. Is the point? It's close to the kind of venues YerAnd normally likes too, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure. And just because statistically speaking, your spy hasn't been as dominating, you're obviously playing very different competition. YerAnd coming from Silver Division, so he played all the folks that were in Silver last season, and Pwndnoob coming from Gold Division, so all the statistics come from Gold. My extra statistics come from Summer Cup for YerAnd and Winter Cup for Pwndnoob. So again, that sample size really does become even more varied of the potential players that these statistics can come from. So it's not to rule out YerAnd whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's specifically true with the second venue pick, where you just play one spy game. So you can do something really cheesy, and there's no ability to react in the next one.
Speaking of, well, not really cheese, we just purloin straight up behind a pillar. Now, purloin behind the pillar could be considered cheesy because it gives the sniper less information as who could have been involved in it. YerAnd's already taken 5 lowlights for his efforts and might even feel comfortable with a couple more as he sees the rest of the party play out here. Equally important, though, Pwndnoob hasn't received a highlight yet for the purloin, and so this could help his chances.
Yeah, this is just a purloin and wait kind of game. And you can say cheese. There could be hors d'oeuvres on that tray.
Yeah, right, okay. Because I actually have a thing. What Pwndnoob's doing right here is what I would actually consider cheese. Time adding 3 times behind the pillar. And look at this, so many lowlights being gathered. This is actually a play that I think will burn Pwndnoob in the long run because when we get to the end of it all, we have one person behind the pillar in that spot and 2 other people who potentially could have done it to just doing AI things at this point.
Now, I know Gallery and Library are very different, particularly as time adds are concerned, but looking at that replay earlier, you'd have to notice that YerAnd has been really good at getting lowlights off of purloins and time adds and anything. He's been kind of failing gracefully. Even when he doesn't burn Noob for something, he narrows the party down so much.
I'm so worried, though. He is staring down Kane here, who clearly must have some high mission count for himself. It seems like all of his sniper movements are around where Kane goes next, and so Pwndnoob, if he active idles for this next 3.5 minutes that he has, and if Kane does anything like going to statues, being inside a conversation with a SDA at a contact, then this could be death for Pwndnoob.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard to hold a shot for that long. And when those lowlights came off, it was obvious right away. This is really the only person other than Noob who could get shot here.
Oh, that failed bug attempt. A bit of a wiggle as we go around the briefcase. That's the kind of thing that YerAnd would lower suspicion for, but I just don't know at this point. YerAnd is down in the series, and mentality-wise, it's hard to stay confident that you know your stuff. Here comes Pwndnoob towards the blue bookshelf, looking to start and get a couple missions under his belt.
Yeah, I don't think the bug attempt was noticed in part because Kane was moving on screen there and clearly getting way more of the attention of the two, simply because he...
Oh,
Ooh.
okay. I know exactly what Pwndnoob's doing. That looks like a really hard etiquette break, and I think it is considered an etiquette break in YerAnd's mind, but there is a bug currently in this game that allows AIs to do exactly that, and if you think that you can pull it off, it's a different animation. It's 100% not reproducible by spies. The animation is far more swift and sudden. Pwnoob is trying to cheese a current bug and convince YerAnd that he saw the bug rather than the default spy animation.
Wow. I understand the move. In that case, it still felt like, even with the 3 minutes to go, YerAnd probably had control of that game because we already know, we've seen this very set and we know from the numbers, that he's an unusually patient sniper. So even with those time ads, I think he was probably going to be able to wait that one out, but now we'll never find out. It would have really tested his patience, 3 minutes of that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I know that with my sniper style, that's the kind of shot that I feel like Pwnoob could potentially get out of me. I'm very impressed that YerAnd was convinced in his judgment that he did actually just see a straight up stop read, not the instant put down that AI sometimes can do at this current moment in the game. Hopefully something that will get patched out and updates to come as well. YerAnd now with an opportunity to bring the series back to equal if you can take the spy win away. Starts off with a very far flirt for 20%, and now we're going to yellow bookshelves, which give us a bit of opportunity. I like this move for two reasons. Warning track. One, you have a book, which is obviously linked to the microfilm mission, so you have something that you can do with that book. But two, it gives you free roam to go back into a conversation and pick up a flirt later on in the line.
Yeah, this is something I actually have loved for years. I would routinely, even back in the days when I basically never did microfilm in my early SCL days, I would still get a flirt, go get a book, go get another flirt, a way to just break it up a little bit, to have an excuse to walk away and come back.
Contact comes out. Pwnoob has quite a few lowlights for it. 4. I think there may be a couple more that he could have gone for, but relatively clean contact for YerAnd. And not only that, we're going to be taking... Sorry, what?
The contact didn't go off because.
Oh, it didn't go off. Yeah, no, very, very well spotted. YerAnd's going to be returning the book back to the yellow bookshelf, really fishing for a low light. Contact in to return the book correctly. It's the kind of thing that maybe Pwnoob would low light for, but it does feel like Pwnoob's behavioralistic sniping has evolved a little bit over the last season. Last season, I remember almost every second sniper game was spy low lit, but so far, Pwnoob is really being a little bit more pragmatic with his lowlights.
Well, he knows his opponent, and his opponent knows what he can do and knows what he likes to do. So you're just seeing, like you said, they know that you know that they know. Down the Yomi rabbit hole we go. Where we stop, nobody knows. I personally get off the train at 2 levels.
2 levels of Yomi, that's enough for you.
Yeah, I know that they know that I know, and that's it. That just means you can't be sure of anything.
That's fair enough. Here comes the conversation with the double agent. YerAnd considering his options right now, wanting to contact in time to come, and here it is, will come through. Now, there's only one other conversation with a SDA in it, and that really stacked conversation all the way to the left, right even, does not have a double agent in it at all. So that's the kind of thing that kind of sucks when you've had to contact twice.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could see reasonable number of lowlights already, including a very small man. I know I emphasize that a little too much, but it's always interesting to me whether or not they make sure that certain characters are in or out.
YerAnd going to pick up a fingerprint. We have contact done. 54% on our seduce and 1 fingerprint in our back pocket now. Potential for a second one to come out when the ambassador receives a drink offer here from Toby in just a second. The kind of thing that I'm sure YerAnd will look over towards. But also picking up 2 fingerprints back to back like that can be considered fairly suspicious. And unfortunately for YerAnd, there is no fingerprint to be had. Time ad? I think it was spotted.
It might have been. It was a white. I don't see any lowlights coming off yet. Here we go.
Yeah. Time ad. Green Seduce does pop our Seduce all the way up now. We're picking up a side statue, and it's fingerprintable. That's 3 out of 4. We're going to inspect, but we also need a hardtail somewhere here. Looks like Pwnoob is watching this side of the map pretty hard. Does feel like we're going to get a classic inspect swap finish, though.
Yeah, it does feel like that, and it's still early enough that that could be very hard. YerAnd's going to try to lose a little heat here, I guess. Are they really going to dump this book? I mentioned 60% microfilm completion rate. We
There's
haven't
no
seen it
way
yet.
because you still need one more mission after that. And I think that this late into the game, this hot as a suspect, is not the kind of thing that YerAnd would be looking for. Instead,
Yeah.
he would much rather frame someone for a green swap, set up the possibility that that could happen. Good little bounce there from YerAnd, but it was off camera, so unfortunately isn't very valuable. And now we do step over towards this statue for the swap here. And YerAnd, Pwndnoob sniper indicated to me that he wanted to just shoot Salmon already for going towards that statue. So I feel like this is the kind of thing that he will stare the statue down, look for it. Oh, he sees it. It's
There it
so
is.
visible. 3 seconds, and the shot comes out instantly. Pwndnoob going to maintain his lead.
It really didn't look like Noob was staring at it that closely before that. If he gets a little lucky, if YerAnd gets a little lucky and gets one of those idle statues or one of the ones maybe to the other side just as he's pulling away, I think he gets away with that. He was not staring it down. He had too many other suspects, as you mentioned, Salmon, for example. So I really think YerAnd was just shockingly close to winning that game.
I think so too. And then it begs the question, should YerAnd have put the statue down and then held a bit of idle waiting just to let that countdown go down a little bit longer? Hindsight's always 2020 warning track, and never never really a sure science either. So hard to say. But now we enter into the final map of the series, heading on over to High Rise, any 3 of 5. And YerAnd's playing for the tie here. Pwndnoob wanting to execute a win to win the series.
I completely agree, by the way, on putting that statue down. I was surprised when he kept cycling. I thought, oh, geez, clearly the move here is to put it down, wait a second too long, and then walk away and give him almost no time to react. I think that would have worked. You mentioned the tie. Yeah, Noob guaranteed at least a point. Noob 2-0 coming into this, so he is going to remain, at the very least, undefeated. YerAnd, however, is 2-0-1, I believe, and facing their first loss here.
Yeah, very, very possible. Heading on into the high rise, bug contact, fingerprint inspect, and seduce are the missions enabled here for Pwndnoob. Some would say that these are your typical SEL spy missions when it comes to any 3 of 5 high rise. Pwndnoob going to start off with a very long range flirt at the window pad for 22%.
The only other loadout I generally see is Purloin here, and I think that's overthinking it. Yeah, I think this is, in almost every scenario, the best loadout possible for 3-5 high rise.
One thing that Pwndnoob will do when he's playing any 3 of 5 high rise is survey the party. Try and find the most suspicious AI and figure out who the suspected double agent is. We know that Red Dress is the real double agent, so now we can kind of make a checklist in our head. Who enters conversation with the double agent? Who doesn't? Start whittling down that party to find out who the suspected double agent is. And once you've figured that out, if you do want to shoot the moon with a frame attempt, then you know that you can be certain that certain people will have a contact.
And we've seen Noob in other games, like, for example, even the Modere game, where he clearly was trying to make a bit of mission progress so that if the frame didn't work, he could still maybe finish late, and that plays perfectly into high rise. That is, in a way, the solved way to play high rise, is to keep both possibilities open until the last minute.
I like that little play there. Sipping and then talking. It takes a no-talk conversation and turns it into the most AI-like possibility for yourself. Really just trying to find any reason for YerAnd to lowlight us in conversation.
Yeah, they've been fishing for lowlights all day, but neither of them have gotten any bites.
Is going to be leaving the conversation now, joining with Queen, our seduction target, and Red Jess, the double agent. But this feels like a series-long trouble for Pwndnoob, constantly sunshined.
That's strange. I've met him. He's a very charming fellow.
AIs do weird things, warning track. That is the lesson that we learn every day here in SpyParty. So with 1.5 minutes left on the clock, things are definitely not out of reach for a mission complete here. But if we do want to complete flirt, then you have to reason that Pwndnoob would want to start that soon. Contact coming out, very good contact, because it eliminates the possibilities realistically that we could have contacted and puts the emphasis on everyone in the other conversation.
Yeah, but a couple of them already have lowlights, as it turns out. Queen and Pearls, the older ladies there. Teal, Smallman, maybe, but normally you'd want more suspects who could have a real banana bread.
Maybe even going to attempt a bug here, hoping that fake contact has brought us a little bit of clout in the eyes of YerAnd. Pwndnoob did want the mission complete, then now's the time that you start considering it. Unfortunately for us, our seduction target moves away from the conversation that has the double agent in it, making a mission complete next to impossible here, I feel, for Pwndnoob.
Didn't get that bite fishing for the lowlight, just move the line around a little more, I guess. Just go all in on it. Try to get that bite. It hasn't happened yet, though.
Only 3 people could be the spy as far as YerAnd's concerned, and unfortunately Pwndnoob is one of them. 17 seconds, and we're potentially waiting for this last talk, but it's to only the double agent from Smallman. There's no way that Smallman could be the spy. Or maybe there is.
Whoa. Wow. It really looked like YerAnd was going to hold that shot. He had every reason to. Just worried he'd miss something, I guess. Just sheer paranoia with the game on the line, and that's just a gift.
Yeah, that's...
Is it potential that there was a fingerprint on the drink? I'm gonna have to go back and look
Yeah,
because that shot
go back
doesn't
to
make sense otherwise.
Yeah. Well, either way, that's going to be YerAnd's first loss of this season, which is actually very impressive. We mentioned earlier that he's risen, but he did jump up through the dropouts there. He won bronze a couple seasons ago, then silver the next year, but he leapfrogged gold entirely into platinum because of those drops. So it would be reasonable to have wondered if those drops had promoted him too high, too fast. But even with this loss, a 2-1-1 start, absolutely holding his own. And we saw why today with that patience as sniper. But Noob just a little better still.
Someone is inviting me to play a game. Let me not
watching
be,
this
let me not be in the lobby right now.
Yeah.
So watching this back, there was indeed a fingerprint on the drink that Pwndnoob took. That Smallman took. It would have been a difficult fingerprint since the double agent also did it. The talk animation, I can't imagine is the reason for the shot, considering the fact that it was only a double agent in conversation.
Yeah.
The shot, however, timing-wise feels so off to me, considering the fact that you're taking the drink at 8 seconds. It's a difficult fingerprint, so that requires an action test, guaranteed overtime if there was to be the spy.
Yeah, even if it wasn't difficult, I think at 8 or 7 seconds would have been when, because you can't start the fingerprint until the drink is fully within your grasp.
Right. So 8 seconds is for me that scary moment where if they are literally completing around 8-something seconds, if your clock is just a little bit off or if the game lags just a little bit, you kind of have to shoot maybe before overtime. I get that. But as you're both saying, it's going to take another second and a half just to do the fingerprint. So you can be confident you're going to get a beep before you shoot. Although he's also probably worried about the dance. Don't forget that already happened on Gallery, and he already made the investment of picking Smallman twice, and it pays dividends in paranoia at the end.